Um, I think I know everybody. I'm Geoff or Shoun. Um, and I want to talk a little bit about non-knowing world. And other times you've heard me talk, I always start off by saying, don't believe a word I say. Do your own science. Um, we're not in the business of beliefs. We're more in the business of experience and somatic senses of things. This ongo period, and for anybody who is not up to speed, our ongo is our 90-day intensive practice period that we engage in our Zen Center and many during the fall. Other Zen Centers do them at different times of the year. One I know does it all year long, where we really try to step up our practice both in terms of time, commitment, and intensity. And Kyoto Sensei identified a theme for this ongo that has three parts: non-knowing self, non-knowing others, and non-knowing world. And many of us are familiar because we've been talking about two of these here, or actually all three of them for the last couple months plus. So I want to talk about non-knowing world, and Kyoto Sensei talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I want to try to bring a different perspective to this if I could. It does occur to me, and it does occur to me that it's really helpful to think of these in three different parts. Each of the perspectives I find really valuable. Non-knowing self is really going deep in here. Non-knowing others is our relationships and how we take care of those things, and then our world, whatever that really is. But at the same time, a perspective that I've sort of grown into is there's really no distinction among these. They really are, they do flow together. I don't know where the boundaries really are. Everyone here knows because you hear it a lot, but the term non-knowing or not knowing comes up in many places in Zen practice. It's in Dogen's literature, it's in an old Chinese koan that ends with not knowing is most intimate. Bernie Glassman, when he crafted the three tenets for the Zen peacemakers, began with non-knowing. Non-knowing, bearing witness, and then taking action based on non-knowing and bearing witness. And each one of those is a study that could take, you could spend a lot of time with. So we'll just spend about 20 minutes with it, the third part of it tonight. Anytime I talk to Sensei about these talks, he always says, just keep it personal, talk about what you know or don't know and stay with what you feel. So I'll try to do that. Since I was a teenager, I've been pretty focused on the world. I felt it's been my duty to pay attention beyond just my neighborhood or my family, or if I lived in a little town, what the city council was doing, but in the broadest possible ways. Not to look away from war and racism, genocide, hunger, all those things that are really comfortable to look at. To pay attention, not look away. This is the bearing witness part. Not look away, no matter what that feels like. And to care. And then to speak the truth about it. I've done this my whole life. Civil rights, Vietnam, feminism, the environment, gay rights, the death penalty, whatever. And my inclination's always been to be really versed in these issues and also to talk about them all the time. And I think one of the results of that is rather than influence, what I wanted to do was to encourage other people to care. I think what I did a lot was just piss them off and alienate people because they could see me coming. There's that guy that always does this, always says this. There's the broken record. There's the predictable sound loop. So that's not been so effective. And I've really tried to let go of that, although some of you who know me better know that that's not been completely successful. So what do you do when you look around and you see these things that hurt? I've always felt pretty resilient with some of these big topics. Like I could hold a longer view. I didn't expect, maybe I did when I was 17. That was a while ago. I don't expect things to change immediately. Some of these changes are generational or millennial, perhaps even. Sometimes you can't see that it's changing for the positive, and that's an easy trap to fall into, to think that nothing is getting better. Despite that long view, I'm getting really tired. Especially in the last few years, and very, very sad. I can't stop looking, and I can't stop caring, but what I see is breaking my heart. And it's not surprising me so much. I knew there were some of these attitudes, greed, anger, ignorance, and all the ways they manifest. I've not had my head in the sand. I'm pretty aware that this has been out there, but the extent of it and the vitriol and just the energy around it lately is just taking my breath away. And it's hard to continue to witness it. I have to admit, there's times I really want to look away. I want to run away from it. I don't even want to hear myself talk about it sometimes. It's like salt in an open wound, or I don't know if we have any road riders here, but everybody who rides on the road knows what a raspberry is when you go down on Left-Hand Canyon and you end up with a big bloody scar on your hip. So how do I practice with this? How do I hold this non-knowing in this world at this time? I was talking to a friend of mine who's a poet the other day about this, kind of thinking out loud, and she shared something from Shakespeare's Sonnet 65. She said, Shakespeare said, "How with this rage shall beauty hold a plea, whose action is no stronger than a flower?" It's almost like, what chance do we have? I could turn away. I could focus on my comfort. I'm pretty hedonistic. I know how to do that. My family, my personal security. That example is certainly out there. And we all know people who, perhaps understandably, have tuned out the world, or they've fixed their response to it in sort of calcified opinions about things, or rote responses to things. I get that. I feel pretty tender towards those attitudes. When my mom first started exhibiting Alzheimer's, she had those. She had like a playlist of things that she would say that she could draw on just to be able to be in the conversation. And she didn't really know what the conversation was about. She wasn't checked out. She was ill. But there are people who don't have Alzheimer's who kind of have that. And it's a way to protect yourself. I get it. I get it. But my vow, and I think a lot of us, I think our vow is not to turn away. And as, I don't know who said this, but to keep that soft front and strong back. And what I think about is trying to meet each person in each situation without me having any agenda or any preformed opinion about them, no matter what, even if I know stuff about them. To be willing to be surprised. Not to assume the best, because that's another kind of thing. Not to assume the worst. Not to assume anything. And just sit still, even though it hurts so badly. And these days it does. I don't need to make a list for everybody here about the things that really hurt if we're paying attention. And this is where it gets fraught. Combining the vow to just be with the world and not know. Combining that with activism is ultimately fraught in my mind. It's all too easy to become positional, or maybe more to the point, oppositional or dualistic when we take on a cause. The work I do every day is leading Zen peacemakers, and we face this all the time. We're a large, relatively small, I was going to say large organization. We've got an international footprint, and we have thousands of members around the world. So we run up against all kinds of causes and work that needs to be done, and positions that are begging to be taken. Standing up for this and against that. This is what we do in our civic world. In our civic world, that's what it's about. That's what the justice system is about. That's the way Congress works. 3 branches of government. There's a tension there all the time. Debate and friction and pushing back. And that's really part of it, taking positions. But these aren't non-knowing. In Zen Peacemakers, often people don't understand this. It happened a while ago. A group came to us and really wanted us to make a statement, a written statement, put it on the website, broadcast it to the world, shout it from the rooftops, condemning the Myanmar military's inarguably brutal treatment of the Rohingya. And we didn't do it. Not that anybody thinks that it's okay what's happening in Myanmar. Not that any of us don't personally condemn that. But that's not what the organization does. Fighting a battle is not our mission. Manifesting and caring for the one body is. non-knowing world, this for me is one of the biggest pills to swallow. That manifesting and caring for the one body includes both the Rohingya refugees who had to split to Bangladesh, and I've been to Bangladesh, and I can only imagine what their life is like there, and the military guys in Myanmar who are doing this. It has to include all of them. My colleague Chris reminds me every once in a while that since 1959, through the regimes of Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai and Deng Xiaoping, and even now with Xi Jinping, the Dalai Lama never once criticized an individual in China. Policy, yes, but never the people. And what's happened to Tibet, how could anybody hardly say, well, this is one of those times where maybe you'd want to relax the rule, relax the practice. Because the Chinese have been horrible. But he hasn't done it. He certainly has the fortitude, the intelligence, and the perspective to do it. He ran out of Tibet in 1959 and has been speaking for his people ever since, 62 years, whatever that is. I mean, could you imagine another situation that would call for him to really, speak harshly? There's part of the answer for me is in this next little section too. A couple of years ago, I gave a talk on the Blue Cliff record number 89, the hands and eyes of the Bodhisattva of great compassion. The Bodhisattva of great compassion is Guanyin or Guanyin or Avalokiteshvara or Kannon in Japanese or Kanzeon. All these names are for the same Bodhisattva. And the koan goes, Yunwan asked Dao Wu, what does the Bodhisattva of great compassion use so many hands and eyes for? And Wu said, well, it's like someone reaching back behind them, groping for a pillow in the middle of the night. Yen said, I understand. Wu said, how do you understand this? And Yen said, all over the body are hands and eyes. And Wu said, you have said quite a bit there, but you've only got about 80% of it. What do you say, elder brother? Throughout the body are hands and eyes. And in the talk I gave, I asked the question, what did we think that Wu meant with this? Hands and eyes throughout our bodies. Are they in here? What are they? What is the body that he's talking about? And where is it? Is it this? We notice that Wu doesn't say my body or your body. Just be still for about 1 minute and see if you can feel your hands and eyes. I think in this koan lies the direction for how we practice with this pain and suffering in this modern world, in the way of non-knowing. I could be wrong. Kuan Yin sees, hears, and touches everyone everywhere with her eyes and hands and his heart of compassion. I know I mixed up the pronouns, but Kuan Yin is sometimes portrayed as a female and sometimes as a male entity. Kuan Yin sees, hears, and touches everyone everywhere with her eyes and hands and his heart of compassion. I can do this. We can do this. This is our practice. This might be oversimplifying this, but when I face the world, and when I work to try to maintain this vow of non-knowing and not turning away, I need to remind myself to start here, not here. It seems like right action, which really is that third tenet, taking action, it's going to come out of here. And my commitment should be to remain still and quiet and soft in my heart, as long as it takes. Long enough for the sound of wisdom to emerge. And I may not know what it's going to look like, non-knowing. And then my head can be useful to help me take skillful actions. If I do it the other way around, it's surely going to lead to more suffering, both for me and for the world. Thanks for listening.